A year ago, South Africans went to the polls. The result of the 2021 local government election was that it produced a large number of unstable government coalitions. It meant that there is no clear way of only one political party, in many instances, holding the hegemony to how it will govern. Still today, a year on, we're seeing very, very fractious municipal governments that have been torn apart because of the precarious nature of local governments. I largely believe that we as South Africans should be mature enough to admit that we are heading to a coalition government future, but are we prepared? We've also then had mayors who had promised really, really important things of development being taken from those positions because of coalitions collapsing. We also had the youngest people being voted into government, into the mayor seat, also being removed from that position because of a breakdown in coalition government. But also some municipalities have sustained. We're joined this morning by the Umngeni municipality mayor, Chris Pappas. He's from the DA. Richard Rubens, Dr. Richard Rubens, is with the Cederberg Eerste party, a coalition of a formation of independence in that area, and also the ANC's Chad Louw. A year ago, he was elected as South Africa's youngest mayor at only 24 years old, but since then is now considered a former mayor because coalitions have fallen apart in that part of the world. I'm going to start with Chris. Chris, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Chris Pappas, Umngeni municipality mayor. You came into power in Umngeni on a wave of support at an area that is traditionally not necessarily a stronghold of the Democratic Alliance. You came in there on a wave of support, and a year later, 12 months later, you are still there. Congratulations on your election a year ago, but also congratulations for sustaining in that position, as we've seen many coalitions, and you're not a coalition government there, but many governments falling apart because of the fractious nature of our coalition government. How has the last 12 months been there in the Umngeni municipality?
Morning, Lester, and good morning to the other guests who are joining today. It's been a very interesting learning experience. It's been very difficult. The extent of the problems once you're in government and you're sitting in the mayor's office are far deeper than when you're sitting in the opposition benches going through reports. But it's been an incredibly fulfilling journey, because all the problems that you've seen in your community for so many years, you can actually start to put plans in place and to start to navigate, the government bureaucracy to try and solve some of them and make meaningful change. So it's been incredibly fulfilling at the same time. But yeah, a learning curve, difficult, new experiences. But the nice thing is that we've actually been able to make some meaningful progress in such a short space of time.
Governance is not only about being in power, it's also about being the critical voice when it comes to being in opposition. I have the experience of here in Cape Town, which I can add, I think, a valid critique of the ANC in this province and the city, that since 2006, since the ANC has not governed in this city, they've not really learned how to be a constructive opposition, because that's what the electorate wills them to be, mandates them to be. We don't want you in power, we want you to be in opposition. Tell me how you've worked with the opposition in the Umngeni municipality, in a municipality which is traditionally not a place you would see the Democratic Alliance make electoral gains.
Sure. So I think as much as it's been a new experience and new learning curve for my caucus, it's also been the same for the opposition, for the ANC in this case, and recently the EFF. But I think they've also been trying to find their footing as an opposition. And, when you get to a meeting and you're used to steamrolling your own ideas or agenda through, but suddenly you find that you can no longer do that, your language has to change, your approach has to change, your engagement with the content of what we deal with has to change. So I think they've been trying to find their footing. Different councillors have found it better than others, but I don't think there's that cohesiveness yet. We need a strong opposition. You need someone to keep you fresh. You need someone to keep you on your toes. And I don't think that they've quite found themselves yet, but they are improving, and I do appreciate their effort in that regard.
Dr. Rubens Richards with the Cederberg Eerste formation, a formation of independent candidates that have banded together to put forward a collective front to contest elections. You were elected a year ago as the mayor of the Cederberg municipality. You're no longer the mayor because quite recently there was a vote of no confidence and a changing of allegiances. You're obviously disappointed about no longer being mayor, but how do you think that has affected service delivery or the stability of that municipality in the Cederberg?
Lester, good morning, and good morning to Chris and Chad and your listeners. I'll give you a short answer. How is it affected? The answer is service delivery has come to a grinding halt. We are caught up in unnecessary administrative and legal fights with each other at the expense of service delivery to our people. I can give you numerous examples, but let me give you one. While I was mayor, I mobilized the goodwill of the surrounding farmers, and they contributed to the manufacture and purchase of skip bins to collect the garbage. The municipality had received a garbage truck, but without the skip bins that go with the garbage truck. So as private residents, and we put our monies together, had these things manufactured, and wanted to make this donation to the municipality for the collection of garbage. In the meantime, I got dismissed, or vote of no confidence, chucked out as mayor. And to date, we've been unable to convince the municipality to receive these bins. They're sitting on my farm as we speak. And the hope is that I will become re-elected, and then we can make this donation to the community for the purposes of collection of garbage. But, the arguments they gave was there's no money for no money for diesel for the truck. We said, we'll give you the diesel money. They said, we don't have a driver for the truck. I said, I've got 4 drivers on my farm. We will donate them as well. And so on and so on. So all the excuses were given. So short answer, service delivery has theoretically come to a standstill.
You're no longer mayor, but you're still the chief whip in that council. But you were never a politician. You were a part of a community organization. Says as independents, as community members, we are going to stand for office to represent our constituents and our broader municipality. But you've worked in civil society. Right. You've worked in academia. You have vast professional experience. But you think you personally were prepared for what could be a very, very bitter game called politics in South Africa, where for the last 20 years it's been a case of winner takes all, even if at the expense of citizens of this country?
Lester, for me it's been a onnuchtering, as they say here in the Cederberg. Afrikaans is the lingua franca here. It's been a sobering experience. Yes, of course, one gets bruised and emotionally upset and so forth. But given all my previous professional experiences combined, I was not prepared for the gutter level of politics and governance that dominates here. Add to that the issues of survival, and then you've got a dog-eat-dog environment.
Chad Louw, former mayor of Oudtshoorn, was 24 years old when he was elected a year ago. A position that came with a lot of firsts, the youngest mayor in South Africa, but you also quickly saw that politics is a rough and tumble business. How did that affect you personally when all of a sudden you were the youngest mayor in South Africa, and then very soon after that you were not, Chad?
Thank you, Lester. Thanks, and good morning to all the listeners and all the other speakers. No, I just want to say I had to seize the moment as soon as possible and as quickly as possible, to seize the moment as being the youngest mayor, and then just after a while being removed. I mean, this is a strange business, but at the end of the day, we will have to deal with it and just um, be the best possible version of yourself, and also have to be strong for other people. I mean, my family, my parents, and everyone was very much involved in me being the youngest mayor, and me being on my journey in politics. They've been involved from the beginning. So I had to be strong for them because they were very disturbed and were sad about what happened. But at the end of the day, I had to realize this is politics, and you will just to dust yourself off and pull yourself up and just start and keep going again.
But not politics at the expense of the citizens that you serve. Let's talk about coalition politics, particularly in the Oudtshoorn municipality. How stable is it, and how is community members being served? We use examples of everywhere around the country where we have this precarious situation of coalition politics. It seems as if a year into a term, many municipalities can't get on their feet because they're hamstrung in council. What's the experience in Oudtshoorn?
Yes, like always, I think when it comes to coalition governments, we really need to look at how to make this legislatively aligned, to ensure that whenever you want to leave a coalition or you want to disrupt a coalition, that there should at least be a penalty or kind of consequence to those parties or those, let's say, partners doing that. Because at the end of the day, it just creates instability, and at the end of the day, it hampers service delivery. Because the people went out in the election with expectation to make sure that their current circumstances changed and vote for certain people to be in certain positions. So I think at the end of the day, taking away those people, you do not gain the confidence of of your constituency you serve. And at the end of the day, you would see people fighting each other, and there's no real discussions over service delivery and how to improve the current circumstances of our people. In Oudtshoorn, it is not stable, I would say, because the party in charge now, they're only governing with one seat, which was one of our partners who actually ousted me as the mayor. It felt like in this one council meeting, after there was a vacancy declared on him, he came back and it just felt like he didn't want to be part of this anymore, and he voted us out with no explanation, with no reason to say that we were not focused on service delivery, or we were not focused on this or that. People just felt like their personal feelings comes into the way, and we're not thinking about the people. At the end of the day, we take decisions, and it is very dangerous looking at where we're going to head. And for coalition government, we really need to look at a legislative policy or to make this legally binding. So whenever people just want to take their stuff and go, there's
Chris, your party, the Democratic Alliance, has called for a legislative instruments to safeguard the integrity of councils in the name of service delivery, like thresholds for political parties to get seats in councils, a limit in the number of calls for votes of no confidence in speakers or mayoral positions in a stable municipality governed by the Democratic Alliance there in Umngeni. What's your thoughts on how do we protect the integrity of our elections and also the integrity of service delivery with what Chad has also suggested here is some sort of legislative instruments to ensure that there is smooth and stable government even when there are coalitions?
Thanks, Lester. So I think if you look at many, more developed democracies, they've gone through this process where, there's been one-party dominance. They've gone through this painful period of defining what coalitions mean for their countries, and then they've come up with legislation, rules, regulations, policies that then guide to stabilize, so that the focus is not on the power of politics to gain access to resources, but rather the power of politics to implement policies and agendas for change. So I think the difficulty that we're going through as South Africans at the moment is not that coalitions can't or don't work. It's that it's new to us. It's that it's a new concept, and it's going to get bigger. We're going to have provinces under coalitions, more municipalities. So what we do need is to try and create a framework to bring stability to what we're seeing now, where there's frivolous use of different legislation, where it's rather about power than stability in government, and where there's no, I'll use the word tentatively, abuse of power in councils. And I say that because at some stage, people go out and they vote, and some parties get 1 seat and some parties get 10 and 5, and there's a different, allocation of seats. But in the system that we have at the moment, there's a disproportionate power that is allocated to smaller organizations, so far as they have a say over much larger organizations in the formation of coalitions, which is in itself a little bit unfair, because you find a small minority, and I mean that as voters, a 1% organization, have a huge say over a bigger swath of the population. So a 25 or 30% part of the population has voted for a particular organization. So these things such as minimum thresholds and binding agreements and legislation is just a way to avoid and to stabilize both what the doctor and Chad have said, to stabilize coalitions going forward. But it's a learning curve, Lester. We're a new democracy. We must never forget that. Some countries have gone through years and years and years of this. We're 27 years old, and we're still going to find what our democracy looks like.
Ruben, are the citizens of the Cederberg in a better space, in a better area than they were a year ago? Are South African municipalities in a better position to deliver their core mandate? They're the front line of service delivery in South Africa. We think that we are largely governed by the national departments, but local government is the front line. The first services that citizens receive is from local government departments. Are we in a better place than a year ago?
Lester, I would like to think we are in a better place. I would say that, since I'm learning to be a politician, so that's the political answer. The practical answer is by way of a case study. So I came in as the mayor. The first crisis we hit was a water crisis here in Clanwilliam. Through my engineering background and my sense of how things get fixed and so forth, resolved the water crisis. The place was without water for 5 days. And guess what? The mayor got charged for interfering in fixing the water crisis. Now, hello, we fixed the water crisis and the mayor gets charged, and I subsequently get voted out as the mayor. Now, could you just put that puzzle together for me?
Politics is who your friends are, to put it very, very bluntly. You maybe not have enough friends in the Cederberg Council, Ruben.
Well, at this point in time, I don't care about friends. It's about service delivery, isn't it? And it's about doing the right thing.
That's important.
So, I bring to bear all my skills and my knowledge and my energy. And of course, yes, I have a vested interest in this area, which is what citizens should have. And so to answer the other part of your question, we are on a mandate from ordinary residents. That's our name. We're the Cederberg First Residents Association, Cederberg Eerste Inwonersorganisasie. And we came into this space as a group or as a party known for not making promises. Can you believe it? We said to them, we do not make promises. We are the no promise party, and we got elected. I said all that drives us is 3 things. We want clean water, clean towns, and clean administration. Everybody wants, and that's what we're going to work for. Finish and clap.
Chris Pappas, Chad, Louw, Dr. Rubens Richards, still involved in local government politics. Chris is the only one who's still a mayor after being elected a year ago. Dr. Rubens Richards still in the Cederberg council chamber. Chad Louw of the ANC, the youngest mayor at the time of his election a year ago, now an ordinary councillor, still working. But I'd like to know from you, our listeners, in your municipality where you live, give us a reflection on a year after local government elections. Is your life better 021 446 0567. Rubens, Chris, Chad, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time.